Good morning, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, which is I expect the majority of you, my name is Carrie Brown, and this morning I am going to be sharing my journey with mental health and keto from surviving to thriving. I am a keto advocate. I am a recipe developer and cookbook author. So I now spend my time developing recipes suitable for a keto lifestyle. I focus on making sure that recipes are simple, easy, and hopefully more delicious than the food that you have been eating up until now. I am a trained pastry chef, so I do bring that to the table. And the irony is that the things that I am trained to do are now all the things that I do not use in any of my recipes: the sugar, the flours, the grains, and all the carbs. But anyway, that is what I do. I live in Connecticut. I moved here this year, and I live in a beautiful home that I was able to put together. I've just finished remodeling my dream kitchen so that I'm able to more readily share my cooking skills and my recipes via video and other mediums to help people who are looking to really get well using a ketogenic diet. And if this sounds like I am one of the lucky ones and that I must magically live a charmed life and I can't have faced much in the way of hardship, I should explain that I spent the vast majority of my existence in a massive amount of pain and wishing I were dead. And if that sounds a little dramatic, it was. But now I'm in a space where I have gone from surviving through life to thriving through life. And I want to share with you that journey because this has ramifications for anyone who is suffering from any kind of mental health struggle. And this is now my passion in life, is to share my journey in the hopes that I can help others to move from surviving to thriving by way of my journey, my story, but also through the work that I do to translate the what keto is and the theory of keto into what you actually eat. So that's my part of it. I'm not about the science and the theory. I'm about helping you to translate all that theory into the food that you actually eat day to day. And as I said earlier, my goal is to make sure that everybody can make this food successfully and that it will turn out to be more delicious than the food you've been eating before you started on the ketogenic diet. So that's me. I don't live a charmed life, although it seems like it now, but let me tell you the journey that got me here. So almost my entire life has been engaged in clawing my way through each day, just trying to survive. And now, every day, I am pinching myself that the life I currently have really is my life. So how did I go from surviving to thriving? Let's take that journey. I've been depressed my whole life. Apart from the odd little burst of very short-lived joy here and there, there's never been a time when depression didn't cloud every aspect of my life. Depression was my normal. And since it was all I'd ever known, I didn't recognize it as depression. It was just how life was, for me anyway. I grew up feeling broken, not good enough, failed, inadequate, and miserable. That's a tough gig for anyone. The way I felt made no sense to me or anyone else around me. So I learned to fake my way through life, putting on a game face when I needed to, and hiding out alone whenever I could, usually with alcohol. Eventually, despite all my best efforts, I gave up and accepted that I was broken and unfixable, and I just struggled through life as best I could, became an expert faker, and no one had any clue about the pain inside. No one ever knew I was depressed, although a lot of people had written me off as moody, prickly, and difficult. In reality, I was just very sad and in constant mental anguish. Over the years, I was put on various antidepressants at different times. Some helped a little, most didn't. All had at best annoying and at worst disastrous side effects. It isn't hugely helpful when the meds they put you on to cheer you up cause you to start throwing furniture and smacking people. Luckily, the people who experienced this newly violent Carrie understood it wasn't me. But I could so easily have ended up incarcerated on a felony assault charge that in reality was the work of medications and a wonky brain that I had absolutely no control over. After trying a horde of different meds, I was prescribed one that caused me to have panic attacks 24 hours a day and prevented me from sleeping for 6 weeks straight. I literally thought I had lost my mind. At my wit's end, I gave up on all the meds. I would just have to endure life with this crushing, relentless depression hanging over me for years. I did. One evening in March 2013, though, life went seriously sideways. I had an especially difficult couple of days and had just hung up with my therapist, telling him I was done with the never-ending struggle and was giving up. And when I said done, I meant completely and totally done with life. I was driving home from the office later that evening, and as I drove down the hill towards my house, I saw a police SUV coming towards me. As he passed me, I watched in my rearview mirror because I had a suspicion about why he was on my street. I saw him flip a U-turn, and I instantly guessed that my therapist had called 911. I was not wrong. I squealed into my garage and hit the remote control to close the door as fast as I could. I didn't expect the burly cop to leap from his car and throw himself under the door just before it closed. I wasn't in the best frame of mind to have law enforcement show up on my door up uninvited and tell me that committing suicide is illegal in Washington state. I hadn't slept or eaten for 2 days. I'd worked 32 hours in the previous 48, and my brain had been trying to kill me for a week. My ability to be reasonable was extremely limited. All I wanted to be left alone so I could exit this life my own way. So when the officer forcibly stopped me from going upstairs to use the bathroom, belligerent Carrie showed up and things went rapidly downhill. Next thing I knew, handcuffs, police backup, and paramedics had all appeared. 6 cops and 2 paramedics later, I found myself handcuffed to a gurney in the back of an ambulance racing to the ER. At the ER, I was handcuffed to the bed and placed under armed guard. For the next 9 hours, I laid alone, sobbing. I was in immense psychological and emotional pain, and as I soon discovered, was on the very brink of losing my freedom to a law that allows the state to commit anyone they deem dangerous to themselves or others. It was the worst 9 hours of my life. I have never felt more alone, or more hopeless, or more out of control. This episode should have been a huge wake-up call, but it wasn't, because depression isn't something you can think your way out of. You can't think your way out of depression any more than you can think yourself out of diabetes or a broken leg. If you could stop being depressed just by thinking differently, I would have stopped when I was 4, because depression sucks and you don't have any control over it. You are completely unable to stop the crazy. What the episode did result in was a mandatory visit to a psychiatrist for an evaluation and diagnosis. I was diagnosed with bipolar 2 disorder, and a few weeks later, there followed a merry-go-round of psychiatrists, doctors, and an assortment of medications while they tried to find something that worked to help keep me stable. It was like playing pin the tail on the donkey, only it wasn't fun, and I was the donkey. I was put on medication, the first of which made me almost comatose. So after 2 weeks of that, they tried something else. On the fourth or fifth attempt, they found something that worked just enough to allow me to function, which is pretty important when you're a single girl who has no other means of support. But despite these medications, 9 months after the ER incident, I became suicidal and remained so for 8 months straight. Every waking hour for 8 months, my brain was trying to kill me. Every waking hour. The 24/7 psychological pain during these 8 months was excruciating, but there was no one else to pay the bills or keep a roof over my head. So I somehow managed to drag myself to work. The work helped to drown out the incessant chatter of my brain trying to kill me. And there were people at work who I did not want to subject to seeing me hurt myself. The weekends were spent days on the couch watching House Netflix, which kept my brain engaged enough to stop me from myself. Imagine spending every waking minute of every day wishing it was time to go to sleep so you get a few hours relief from the uncontrollable thoughts in your brain that you should be dead. I literally felt like I had lost my mind. My life was a swirling mass of hopelessness. After 8 months of this living hell, I was put on lamotrigine, and 3 days later, it was as if someone had turned the lights on in my life. Yes, the hell was over. And for 6 months, I experienced joy. But after 6 months, I became suicidal again. They doubled the dose, and the joy returned for 6 months. And then I became suicidal again. And they said they had to double the dose again. Because this is what it feels like when your brain is trying to kill you. You're in searing emotional and psychological pain, crushing pain that you can make no sense of, pain that has no basis in fact, because there's nothing tangible causing it. It just is, and it's relentless, and you just want the unbearable pain to stop, and nothing helps, and you have no control over it, and you just want to die. Because it seems like that's the only thing that will make the excruciating pain stop. Every single minute is a mammoth struggle to stay alive, to resist the whispers telling you the only way to stop is to die. It's absolutely exhausting. Imagine being in a plane that crashes into the mid-Atlantic Ocean. You're still alive, but you're alone, bobbing in the water, surrounded by debris and dead bodies, thousands of miles from shore. Parts of you are throbbing with pain, and there's no food or water. But you want to stay alive, so you start treading in the ocean, despite the monumental effort it takes just to keep your head above water. But eventually, you lose your strength, and you realize it's completely hopeless. You don't want to die, but you just cannot endure the pain and hopelessness any longer, and there's nothing you can do about it. Here's what it's like to be suicidal. Imagine yourself standing on top of a long, steep water slide, water gushing from behind you, and you know that at the bottom is a deep pool of water in which you will drown because you can't swim. But the water is coming from behind so fast that you can't step backwards to safety, and suddenly you slip and you're rushing towards the pool at the bottom, faster and faster, unable to slow down or stop yourself because the water is too strong and the sides are too slippery, and there's nothing you can do, even though you desperately don't want to go down into that pool and drown. You are powerless to stop it. So when they were telling me that they were going to double the dose again, I called BS and I got really mad because I was not going to sit there like a bump on a log being fed increasing amounts of drugs to shore me up for the rest of my sometimes almost bearable life. I was no longer prepared to accept the mantra from medical professionals around me. There's no cure for bipolar. You need to be on medication for the rest of your life. Just accept there's things you'll never be able to do. Learn how to make life bearable around your bipolar. Your bipolar dictates your life now. What jobs you can do, what your relationships look like, even where you can travel. Get used to it. It's really not that bad. But I said no. No to doubling the dose. No to accepting there's no other way. And then I fired everyone. I fired all the doctors and all the psychiatrists because there was absolutely no critical thinking going on by anyone except me. No one was asking what caused my bipolar except me. Was it genetic, environmental, dietary, or was it psychological? Was it growing up with a manic depressed father, or was it any combination of the above? It made sense to me that if I could figure out what caused it, I might be able to fix it. I know, crazy talk. Find the cause and heal myself? What on earth was I thinking? I figured I'd start with genetics, mostly because I did grow up with a manic depressive father, so it made sense to me that there might be a genetic connection. I sent a vial of spit off, and 6 weeks later, I got a file containing my DNA report. And there it was in black and white. MTHFR. This is a genetic mutation that results in a bunch of not good stuff. I did tell you that I wasn't the science geek. One of the not good stuff that MTHFR can bring is having a reduced ability to methylate. Why does this matter? Because our bodies cannot use B vitamins unless we methylate them first. And what do B vitamins do? One of their biggest tasks is neurotransmitter health. So I had had a severe lifelong deficiency of B vitamins, which blood tests corroborated. My neurotransmitters had never been able to function properly. I discovered that I have an intolerance to gluten, although I'm not celiac, and that my serotonin and dopamine pathways were broken in about 40 different places. Serotonin and dopamine are responsible for mood balance. I also do not have the ability to clear toxins effectively. Add all those things up, and it was no surprise that depression had plagued me for my entire life, and a mental breakdown of some kind was pretty much bound to happen at some point. Bipolar, come on down. Armed with this info and a slew of food intolerance and blood test results, I engaged the help of a naturopath to help me further interpret my DNA and figure out a plan for healing my many other ailments, which included psoriasis, migraines, constant ear infections, fatigue, irritable bowel syndrome, and eczema. Some of the common things that the mainstream medical profession seem to be completely unable to fix. Around the same time, I bumped into a doctor on Twitter and we struck up a conversation. He said that he thought he could help me with my bipolar, and I was all ears. I had already been eating, mostly, grain and sugar-free, higher protein, with masses of non-starchy veggies, along with some healthy whole food fats for 3.5 years at this point. And although my overall health had improved, eating that way certainly hadn't made a positive impact on my bipolar. My new doctor, who some of you may know, is Dr. Ted Naiman, immediately put me on a ketogenic diet. Ketogenic diets are used very successfully for the treatment of seizures in children. And since the lamotrigine that I was on was an anti-seizure medication, it made sense that my bipolar may respond well to a similar diet. So very low carb, moderate protein, high fat it was. I switched to a ketogenic diet in mid-July 2015. I started my naturopath's food elimination protocol and supplementation plan, including methylated B vitamins, 6 weeks later on September 1st. 6 weeks after that, under my doctor's watchful eye, I reduced my lamotrigine to 0 over the course of a week. That was a little over 3 years ago, and I have had 0 symptoms of bipolar since I stopped that medication. And believe me, I have tried to make myself depressed because the change was so unbelievable to me. But my brain just doesn't work that way anymore. After a lifetime of being labeled and judged for something I couldn't control, I had finally discovered that I wasn't crazy. I wasn't to blame, and that changed everything. All it took to save my life, as well as $39,000 a year on medications, psychiatrists, psychotherapists, and hospitalizations for migraines, was some supplements, a change in diet, and a case or two of Kerrygold butter. And that's how my life went from bipolar depression, months and months of suicidal episodes, a life where I was really dragging myself through, to the life I have now. Freedom from all medications, a happy, sunny disposition, no symptoms of bipolar, and a lot of other health benefits as well. My life went from black and white to full-on technicolor. 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, mostly all I wanted to do was die. And yet here I am, literally living my dream. Because it turns out that life doesn't have to suck. Mental health issues don't have to rule your life. There is hope. Depression is not your fault. You are not broken, and you can change your life into whatever you want it to be. Now, I realize that my experience of healing from bipolar disorder is just an N=1, and it could easily be written off as anecdotal. So I'm going to share, without naming, a friend of mine who saw me talk about this 2 years ago for the first time. And she saw me talk about this. She approached me and she asked me if I would help her. We put her through the same process. We got her DNA profile done. We found out that she also suffered from the same mutation, MTHFR, and we followed a similar path. She also had very, very similar benefits from me. She went from, over the 15 years that she had been diagnosed with various mental health issues, one of them being bipolar, she was on any combination of 28 different pharmaceutical medications. She is now on 2. She's down to 2. And by following a ketogenic diet and taking her methylated B vitamins, she has almost cured all of her symptoms as well. But if there's one thing I've learned over the past few years, it's that everybody is different. The path to healing your mental health issues is not going to be the same as mine, and it's not going to be the same as my friends. But over the last 3 years, where I've been working on helping people on a ketogenic diet, I have met hundreds and hundreds of people who have successfully treated their depression or their other mental health issues through use of a ketogenic diet. We are all unique individuals, and not everyone with bipolar and other mental health issues will get the same results by following the exact same set protocols as I did. But regardless of what the root causes of your health issues are, the important thing to know is that there is hope. I would highly encourage you to seek out someone that can help you with the ketogenic diet if you suffer from mental health issues. I would also highly encourage you to start being your own detective, to start looking at not just your symptoms, but what is causing those symptoms. I would highly encourage you to be your own detective and start taking your journey. However, from the thousands of people that I help support in my Facebook groups and via my blog and my other social media outlets, I can tell you that tens of thousands of people are finding relief from mental health issues and depression by following a ketogenic diet. So from my perspective, that will be a really, really great place to start. It may not, a ketogenic diet on its own may not solve all of your issues, but it will certainly put you in a much, much healthier state than you are probably currently in. And it will take away one of the things that has been shown to be, or actually two of the things that have been shown to be very harmful to brains. One of those is gluten and one of those is sugar. So I hope that this story my journey has given people with mental health some hope. I am no one special. I'm just an ordinary girl who got seriously fed up with the constant pain and struggle. And I do believe that you can heal, and I do believe that there is hope. And a ketogenic diet for me was absolutely key to this thriving life that I have now. So learn what works for you. Reach out to people who can help you. If I can help you, reach out to me. Dr. Eric Westman and his team are fully engaged in helping people understand how a low carb or ketogenic diet can help you heal from so many modern diseases and concerns. And I am living proof that mental health issues is one of the things that a ketogenic diet is particularly useful for. So I hope that this has been helpful. You can reach out to me on social media if you need more information. I will be happy to help you. And I wish you all well on your journey. And I hope that the Adapt Live team can help you to reach your health goals. And if I can help in any way, please reach out to me too.